What if your newest hire decides whether to stay in their very first week before you have even learned their name? Most plant leaders treat onboarding as a checklist. Badge, safety video, SOPs. Now get to work and make some parts. But a national study of 1,250 people that were interested in working in manufacturing or are working in manufacturing found that people closest to the work are asking for one request in that first week. And the people, the administrators and the leaders that are making the decisions don't even see it. That blind spot feeds on turnover quietly, hire after hire. After 25 years of working in manufacturing and 10 years of coaching and helping plants, I call this the expectation gap. And I'll show you the near zero cost move that closes this in week one, because I was surprised in some of the data we got. So Crossover Solutions, our partner, sponsored this research and we did it together and throughout Canada and the US, so it's an international study. And one of the areas we're wondering on, because the people that are filling out the survey are people that are interested in working in manufacturing or transportation and logistics, and they could be working there currently or interested. So they have some mindset around it. So one of the challenges I'm hearing from the industry, whether it's in Canada or the US, it's that first 30 days, that first 7 days, that turnover. I mean, do they even, do they show up, on that first day? And so those are the things that we're working towards. So, what are some of the ways that people appreciate that? So we did the survey, and there was one statistic that kind of made me think a little bit different from what I thought people expected. And the area that surprised me was around mentorship, a buddy system, someone that's there. So there's some real gap in this data, because when we did the research, 46% frontline. So these are the people that are making the parts, and you're coming in for you're usually at the start of the organization, a team member. Well, 46% of them said that, hey, you know what? Someone that could just answer my questions the first week. Like if I had one person to go to, if I had a silly question, and, this is the culture I think that our industry needs, for safety, quality, productivity, is that right away, people are accustomed to be able to just talk and ask questions, right? Because we want people to stay curious, high level, we want this continuous improvement and all their ideas. But if we haven't created the environment where people can ask questions and connect with people, especially in that first week, because man, people have choices. And right now I'm seeing turnover in those, first 30 days more than I ever have. So, but there's some no cost ways. So without, how do we do this? Well, just someone in that work area. So it could be another team member. I find another team member is better than a leader, because they can usually be more dedicated. You find that right person that can feel that person welcomed. Well, because what's going to happen. Well, the leader, that's the leader's job. We always seem to say that, right? Just put it on the leader's plate. But in this situation, we know what happens, right? If there's a quality issue or we're behind and all of a sudden that leader kind of loses attention of that person, well, they went through their training day, they're fine. All of a sudden, nobody talks to them, right? Now they got questions, and maybe they're feeling a little bit awkward. And now it's like, hey, is this a place that I want to be long term? And I find the other advantage is if you can go and have those early conversations. Hey, what's on your mind? You're going to find out if you didn't come back to work tomorrow, what would stop you, right? Like it's your first 7 days. Can you get them through the first day? Can you get them through the first week? And then can you get them through 30 days and then 90 days? And we put this mindset, sometimes this old school mindset of, well, hey, they got a job. They're getting paid to do this job and they should be happy that they're in here. Okay. How's that working for us? I don't think it's working very well. When I hear about some of the struggles of the turnover in the short term. So, but the statistic from our study that we did through the Center of Generational Kinetics, and they did a great job of just like pulling out all this information. But the one I just wanted to stay focused on today is interesting that 34% of the managers think the first week mentor is important. 46% of the people that actually need the help think that's important. So now we've got a different story, right? So it's like, it's something that we don't see. I think that, when we're talking a gap that large, it's, hey, this is great. Because now we see an opportunity. Week one, what's expected? Because we talk about the manufacturing greatness model, right? We have how you show up impacts on how people feel. We have a showing up gap. That's important in your first week. Expectations, the space between what we believe is expected and what's actually expected. And on a new hire, that's a two-way street. Like, what are you expecting from a new employer, right? What are you expecting? And they, 46% are expecting a contact, a mentor, someone that they can just go ask questions. I share this with you today because I'm excited. I'm excited for our industry. And I think that with a little bit of shift in how we do things right off the front, we can separate yourselves. You can separate yourself as from your competitors. It may not even be within manufacturing, but someone going to another type of job. And, most plants just skip this. So, it just kind of ties in instead of like the whole concept of stop telling people and start asking. So maybe if you just kind of shift that onboarding week instead of, okay, what do we got to feed into them? I understand that we got to do a portion of that and they're expecting that. They want to know how the benefits work and when will that kick in and number one, what are all the safety areas I need to know of? What if there's an emergency? We want to have all that and if there is an emergency, who's my buddy? Well, all of a sudden now I got someone looking after me, right? How does that feel? How welcoming does that feel to a new employee? And now all of a sudden, these gaps and expectations start to close. And now we get more aligned. So now we have this connection of what's expected. And we know that the third gap in the manufacturing greatness model is the accountability gap. And so now when we say, well, this person, we just hired them and they're weekend and I don't know, they seem kind of lazy. We should probably get rid of them before 90 days. Hold on a minute. Maybe not. Are they clear on the expectations, right? Some people just need that. So it's really understanding each individual. What do they need? Are they clear on the expectations? When does break time end? When do I start? When can I leave my station for break? What's my flexibilities? How do I communicate if I need something? And then all that starts to build the relationship, right? Because we know that there's these relationships as a foundation. And what an opportunity for this mentor to start building a relationship. Like one of your team members already, focused on that. And then what does that do to the mentor? Think about it. Now all of a sudden, you're not a team member loading parts, just another number. You are part of the culture. You're part of the company. And you're so important that you're going to be the first person that they see and work with. So, it's just fun, right? So for new hire onboarding, get that first week mentor and let's see what your employee retention does in those statistics. I'd love for you to track it, try it, and then let me know. Because if the statistics are coming out here, and this is the data, what would that mean for frontline employees closing that expectation gap? And we talk about this whole workforce development, right? There's gold. There's gold in this research, and there's gold in your plant and your company right now. And I just want you to be able to take advantage of it because, week one, it is where a team member decides, hey, am I going to stay or go? And don't look at the mentorship. It's not a task or a handoff. It's a relationship. It's just human, right? And it would kind of represent who you are as a company. Well, man, if they give me a mentor and we're having these conversations on the first week, I think I'd be pretty comfortable staying here for a while. So, and if nobody owns it, we talk about accountability. Like who owns that? Who owns the onboarding? Once they get out of the boardroom and they're on the shop floor. And if you can't answer that, or if your answer is, well, that's the frontline leader. We're going to talk about that in another solo episode. But for right now, I want you to consider all the responsibilities that person has. And it's not discipline, it's not willpower. It's just is a true capacity to focus for that frontline leader. Because a lot of the frontline leaders that I know and the supervisors, we'll talk about that in the next episode. There's still items to do, but I'm just pumped about this mentor, and I hope you are too. So 46% say they need it, and only 34% of the managers and executives think that's important. So let's think about that. Let me know how that goes. Be a link in the show notes to subscribe to the newsletter. We're going to be giving out more tools, more statistics. We're going to share more of this report as time goes on. It's a lot to digest. And thanks for following Manufacturing Greatness and stay curious.